Thank you. Um, at this time, we're going to do our Pledge of Allegiance. It's 7:31. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please note that all of our counselors are in attendance. At this time, we're going to have updates from our registrars. I'm going to ask the registrars to go first, and then I'm going to ask our town clerk to go. So Mr. Ike, please unmute, and Marguerite.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert W. Ike. I'm the Republican Register of Voters, and my colleague is Sharon Dexter. She's a Democratic Register of Voters. A general election for presidential electors, representatives in Congress, state senate, state senator, state representative, and the Register of Voters will be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. All 5 polling places, Leisure Services, Bloomfield High School, Carmen Race, Metacomet, Laurel, will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Deadline to register to vote is Tuesday, October 27th. The Register of Voters will be in their offices from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. on the 27th, or you can register to vote 24/7 at the Secretary of State's website until 11:59 p.m. on October 27th. If you turn 18 before October 28th and November 2nd or move to Bloomfield or have your voting rights restored, you may register to vote in the registrar's office on November 2nd from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and vote on November 3rd, 2020. There will also be Election Day registration on November 3rd from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. until the last person in line has been processed. The EDR will be held in the council chambers at Town Hall, 800 Bloomfield Avenue. Upon proving your identity and your address, you can register and vote. If you wish to check your registration status or your polling place, go to the Secretary of State's website, myvote.ct.gov. Any questions? Please call the ROV's office at 860-769-3540. And lastly, we presently, as of today, have 15,198 registered voters in the town of Bloomfield. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ike. Thank you to you and Sharon. I know it's been a little bit crazy, so thank you for all that you're doing for us, especially during this most important election. I'm going to now ask our town clerk, Marguerite, to please unmute herself.
Hi, everyone. As the mayor said, I'm Marguerite Phillips, town clerk, and as you all know, COVID-19 virus has dramatically changed our lives. The state of Connecticut has determined that any registered voter can vote by absentee ballot versus going to the polls if they choose to do so for their own safety. This is pursuant to Public Act 20-3. Towards the end of September, the Secretary of State sent all registered voters an absentee ballot application. This application was pre-filled with your voter information. If you choose to vote absentee ballot, you will need to check the box indicating your reason for obtaining the ballot. You can check either COVID-19 or illness if none of the other reasons apply. Make sure all the pre-filled information is correct. Sign and date the application. Use the self-addressed stamped envelope to return it to the town clerk's office. There is also a designated safe, secure drop box for absentee ballot applications and ballots on the Park Avenue side of Town Hall, which is clearly marked. Once your signed application is received by the town clerk, it shall be processed and you will then receive your ballot in the mail. Please keep in mind the following points. You do not need to actually have the COVID-19 virus in order to vote by absentee ballot. You must return the original signed application to the Bloomfield Town Clerk's office. You must fill out an application for each election. If you already voted absentee for the August primary, you still have to fill out an application for the November election. If you have registered to vote for the first time by mail and did not provide identification with your registration, and you are voting for the first time by absentee ballot, then the federal law provides that you put a copy of your identification inside the outer envelope of your absentee ballot. Once you have selected your candidates, put your ballot in the B envelope, sign and date it, put the B envelope in the C envelope. It is postage paid, so you can mail it or put it in the secure drop box on the Park Avenue side of Town Hall. Completed ballots must be received by the town clerk by 8 p.m. on Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd. This election will be unprecedented in regards to the volume of absentee ballots we will be issuing from our office. This is an enormous undertaking that the Secretary of State's office has left in our hands, and we appreciate your patience and understanding during this very stressful time. I have worked in municipal government for 36 years and have managed elections for 27 years and have never seen anything like this. To put it in perspective, the Bloomfield Town Clerk's office normally does approximately 1,300 absentee ballots during a presidential election, and we are running a marathon to get the work done, as elections is not all we do. Now, with approximately 15,000 voters in Bloomfield, we are anticipating anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 absentee ballot requests. To date, we have issued 5,200 absentee ballots. Just the application process looks like, for a visual, 20 reams of paper to process. A ballot set has 6 items. We are inundated with phone calls with questions and concerns. I am confident we have put the steps in place to meet the challenges and deadlines along the way as provided by law, and we will get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you, Marguerite. We will get the job done. Sharon Drexler, the Democrat registrar, is here. I don't know if she wants to say anything, Sharon. If you do, please unmute. Sharon? 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 You gotta unmute. Okay, I'm gonna move on, Sharon, unless you. Go ahead, Bob, unmute yourself. Bob, Robert.
Sharon is having some connection issues.
Okay.
She's not able to speak. Some of the connection's not working.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and move on. Thank you guys so very much for being here one more time. I know that Councilor Curtin, unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thank you to both our register of voters and our town clerk for the work that they're doing and for stepping up to the plate during this challenging time. As the town clerk stated, we're going from 1,300 to approximately 10,000. So that's a lot of body of work. But for the council and for folks who are listening in the town, could you just kind of explain a little bit about the process and some of the challenges that you're currently seeing? Obviously, we are hearing a lot of different innuendos per se going on around absentee voting. Have you seen any of those, I would say, folks trying to register to vote absentee and potentially may be coming in during the actual day of voting to vote? What kind of measures do you have in place to prevent that from happening?
Okay, so first I want to say there are a lot of concerns out there because of what people are seeing in the news, for example. So I want to just tell everyone in Connecticut, we're town government, not county government. And for example, in Bloomfield, we're 15,000 voters. So it's not comparable, say, to Orange County, California, right, with a county. And so when someone votes by absentee ballot in Connecticut and their ballot is returned, scanned into the system, the CVRS system, on the voter list, there'll be an A checked as having voted by absentee. So if someone walked in the polls and wanted to vote by machine, they will not be able to vote twice. Those are in place for that not to happen. Now, if someone got an absentee ballot and never returned it, and it was never scanned in, they absolutely could still go to the poll and vote in person. So until the ballot is received by the town clerk's office and scanned into the CVRS system, checked as having voted by absentee, the person hasn't voted, even though they requested a ballot. So I hope I answered your question so you understand that there's checks and balances to being sure no one can vote twice. If that's your question, we absolutely have that under control.
Thank you. Councilor Politis, please. Yeah, go ahead. Please unmute yourself, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. I just had a quick question. When are we allowed? Are we allowed to start counting absentee ballots? Are we held to the November 3rd? And is it going to carry over for days and days, or can you start counting them in advance?
So we do start counting absentee ballots on election day, and we are allowed to take up to 4 days for that counting to happen. There is a new law, 20-4, which is an optional, but we can begin on the 5 p.m. on Friday, October 30th, to open the outer envelope, not the inner envelope. To do that, though, there's many processes that have to happen before that happens. And so myself and the Registrar of Voters will be meeting and discussing that we feel we're at a place that a lot of these processes are complete before we can start this optional, a head start, if you will, of say 10,000 ballots, right? Can you picture opening and doing certain processes to separate so that on election day, we would just have, say, the inner envelopes to deal with. And there's more processes to that before we even get to the ballot. So yes, we, not always, but because of this election, because of COVID, and we're doing so many different things, the Public Act allows us to open ballots on October 30th, 5 p.m. if we can get all those processes done in place to be able to do that.
Thank you.
I see Sharon Drexler. Are you able to unmute yourself now?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for your patience. I'm sorry that I had some difficulties. So could you repeat your question, please?
So I think the question that was just answered by the town clerk was if you could start the counting before, or when can you start the counting? But she did go ahead and give us a good answer for that. So if there's
Okay.
anything else that you would like to add, that would be great. Mr. Ike did speak at the onset, but if you want to add anything else, please go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this opportunity. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the measures that we're taking to ensure that we have safe polling places. And by polling places, I mean not only the 5 actual polling places, but also the EDR, the Election Day Registration, which will take place in Town Hall between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. or until the last person is out of line. So we actually have 6 polling places for this election. So to ensure the voters that we will have safe polling places, they will look different than they have previously. They won't look a lot different than August, but they'll look different from last November. The polling places will be staffed at a reduced rate given the last presidential election in 2016. We can't accommodate all of the election workers and the voters because of the COVID-19 restrictions. So there will be a moderator who is the chief official in the polling place. There will be 2 assistant registrars. They take the place of the registrars in the polling place. So you'll have 1 Democrat and 1 Republican. Their chief duty on that day is to take care or assist voters with registration issues. There will be 4 checkers, 2 of each party. They will be working in teams of 2. We will have 1 ballot clerk, which is very different from what we've done in the past. And there will be 1 tabulator tender in the 5 polling places, which will all be open. Everyone will receive a 1-use pen. When they pick up their ballot from the ballot clerk, they'll also be given this pen. They can take it with them. They can throw it in the trash. They can do whatever they would like to do. We are going to have a dedicated janitor at each and every polling place. I haven't worked out the details for EDR at Town Hall, but it's on my list of things to do. We need to have a janitor, a dedicated janitor, so that they can wipe down the privacy booths after each voter has cast their ballot. We will have polling officials that will be wearing masks. Some will be wearing gloves. That's their choice. Some will be wearing face shields. That again is their choice. And we found that people didn't really want to do that in August. They felt that the mask was sufficient. We'll have sanitizing wipes. We'll have hand sanitizer. So we're taking every step that we can to ensure that people are going to be safe in the polling place. The one thing that I need to tell everybody is we cannot require voters to wear masks. We can offer them a mask, but they are not required to put it on in order to vote in Connecticut. So if that occurs, and it did occur twice in August, we are advising our moderators to take that person out of line. Once again, offer them a mask. If they still wish to not wear one, then we are going to cut the line and we are going to hustle them through as rapidly as we can. And we are going to make sure that we have the janitor trailing after them and wiping every surface that they touch. So it's not a perfect system, but those are the safeguards that we're putting into place to, again, make sure that people are safe. We are going to ask voters to wear a face mask. We're going to follow social distancing ourselves. All tables will be 6 feet apart. All people will be 6 feet apart. In some cases, it'll be a little more than that. And so we will have markings on the floor so that when you're queuing in line, you will be 6 feet apart from the person in front of you. And we ask for patience because providing a safe environment may create lines, which are unavoidable. We hope that they will not be too long. We believe that 2/3 of the people in Bloomfield that are registered to vote will take advantage of the opportunity of an absentee ballot. Our high point for Election Day registration was 2 years ago, where we had about 200 people register on Election Day. We don't believe that it will be that high this year. We hope that it won't be that high this year. But those are the things that we are doing to ensure that everybody is safe. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Councilor Merritt.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to ask the town clerk about how long it takes to count 10,000 ballots. And do you have the staff to do it? And how, I mean, do you have any idea? Somebody must have figured this out. You could go through a drill to figure it out, I suppose.
Well, I really, as I said, I've been doing this a long time and I've never had to do that many ballots. And that's why the state allowed 4 days for counting. I can tell you for processing, it can take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes for processing a ballot. And counting a ballot can also be the same thing. I mean, we did have to hire people to do this because there's absolutely no way we could
That was my question.
ever. Yes, we absolutely had to hire some people, some workers to help us with the process. And we absolutely have to have more than we normally do for absentee ballot counters to help with the process. So, you know, I'm hopeful by Friday we'll have the answers, but you know, if we have to move one more day, we will have to do that. But honestly, Joe, I've never experienced this to know if we can do it in 2 or 3
Well,
days.
How long does it count? Well, you have done like 1,000 absentee ballots, so haven't you?
Well, I'll say this, the last presidential election, we worked 24-hour plus. We worked the total 24 hours. We didn't leave before 5:30 a.m. And that was, you know, so it's going to take days to count all those ballots. Absolutely. Now, if we can get the processes complete, it's a marathon. If we can get the processes complete and try to open up those envelopes early as the legislature has allowed for this election to try to speed that process, that would help us and give us a head start for November 3rd. But at this moment, I can't tell you because I can't even, we have 4 holding on the phone. People are calling because there's so much misinformation out there. They're worried, is their signature proper? They're worried about, they're just worried about a lot of things. So we're trying to give them comfort knowing this is Bloomfield and we know what we're doing here. We run a tight ship and we know our town. We're not a county government. And but I will let you know probably by November 9th, I'll let you know how long it takes.
Counselor Goff.
Hi, yeah, this is probably, it may be too late for this, but I was struck by the fact that we're giving, you know, since we don't want used pens recycled, that each person gets their own pen. I don't know if it's too late, but since everyone loves the I voted stickers, can we get pens that say I voted? Because people then would probably be likely to walk out with them and keep them as a souvenir. So I don't know if it's too late to think about that, but maybe something if in ordering the pins, I would think that would be a good statewide thing.
Deputy Mayor. Got it.
There it is. There it is. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. People keep asking me about the drop-off situation for the ballots, and I keep telling them that I believe it's a walk-up now. Is there any chance that that's going to be changed between now and Election Day?
I'm not aware of when that will change. I know the parking lot is very busy, especially with this election season. So there is some bottlenecking happening where people coming in, like say the handicap parking area, trying to get out due to the barriers and the cones. So I do know that everyone loves the Black Lives Matter mural, but they are concerned about getting out of the parking lot. So I don't know. I'll let you know, our town manager is who I would refer to that. I'm not aware of when or if.
Counselor Wong.
Thank you. Thank you, Marguerite. Susie, Ms. Phillips, I just wanted to ask something more specific. Did we have any specific complaints on the drive-up situation with the ballots? And if so, can you quantify them?
I haven't had complaints about the drive up. People ask, can they drive up? But it's more of the bottlenecking that I'm hearing about. There's a lot of traffic happening at Town Hall. So I'm hearing more about that, the concerns about getting in and out. Because I think it's like a 1-car area to go in and out in the back of that, in the parking lot there. So that was more the concern that I'm hearing. I don't know about the town manager's office, what they're hearing as far as complaints.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shank, can you please unmute yourself? Still muted, still muted.
How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. I received one phone complaint about the parking lot. And it was more a matter of congestion in the parking lot on that side of Town Hall. I think we can encourage people to our employees to a certain extent to start parking on the staff side of the Town Hall, but then you run into issues with people coming into the Town Hall with masks and having to be escorted. In the past, when we've had issues like this, we've asked the employees to park over at the Winterberry Mall in some cases and use that for a day or two, but we're talking here longer period of time. But I think we can do something like that to perhaps alleviate it. It's not an insurmountable problem right now. It's just that it's beginning to become more of a problem as we get closer to Election Day. So I think that we're going to want to take a look at that. I haven't received any complaints specifically about the not being able to drive around over the Black Lives Matter mural. I did check today with the Public Works Department. It has been sealed. Grit has been added as an overseal to prevent slipping because the paint was slippery. I suppose we could open it up, but the drop-off box is not something where you can drive up, stay in your car and put your ballot in. You still have to exit and put your ballot in it. And it's my understanding that the ballot box is under surveillance 24/7, 365. So, and there's also state regulations. Marguerite, you might want to comment on these about moving the box around. It's my understanding that that's not allowed.
Not allowed.
So we'll go ahead and monitor the traffic in the parking lot. And if necessary, I'll have the town employees see if we can't move over to the Winterberry Mall for a period of time.
Sharon, can you go ahead and unmute? Sharon? Did you have your hand up?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yes, I did. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about November 3rd. With the parking lot blocked off, I need to use the Bloomfield Avenue side of the building for Election Day registration. And I'm very concerned that there is not going to be enough space with the town vehicles there to have people come into Town Hall to register and vote. So I actually sent out an email late last week asking if we could have all town vehicles and all town employees vacate the Bloomfield Avenue parking lot for the day, because otherwise I just don't have any idea how we're going to process Election Day registration.
Excellent, thank you. Counselor, I'm going to go to Counselor Curtin, if you can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to continue the conversation along these lines, and based on everything I've heard from everyone, I think there is less of a concern with the circle. I think what we should be looking at, I know Town Manager Shank mentioned this, it's how can we, number one, do we need to have an officer in that vicinity to help to guide traffic? Because whether or not the circle was blocked off, you will still have that bottleneck that we're talking about. And I think it will be worse in a sense. So I like what Ms. Drexler just mentioned about the 3rd, November 3rd, to have all vehicle parked in the Winterberry Mall. But I think we should start thinking about moving forward, how can we help facilitate that kind of congestion that we should expect. We're talking about an increase of possible 9,000 additional absentee ballots, and you have to expect that folks are going to be coming in and dropping things off. So that's something that I would say in the next few weeks for us to keep in mind and have something in place. to help facilitate that.
Counselor Wong.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments here. I'm really happy to see that it's sealed, the Black Lives Matter mural. I'm more concerned about any barriers to the box, whether it's parking and walking or removing the barriers so folks can leave the parking lot and we can alleviate that barrier. Now, the council certainly didn't paint the mural with intentions of preserving this for a lifetime. We knew there was going to be normal wear and tear, and I do not object to taking down the barriers in the next couple weeks. I think we should be thoughtful in thinking about that. The Black Lives Matter movement is about equal civil rights and equal rights. And I think that we should be thoughtful in removing any barriers that get us to that point. I think that preserving art is important, but more so the action behind the art and the action behind the movement is making sure that everyone can have access to that ballot. So, Mr. Town Manager, Interim Town Manager, can you please just keep us posted on some of that likelihood of the barriers being removed? Maybe my colleagues on council can think about, at least in the next 2 weeks as we move up to November 3rd, hearing the Registrar of Voters, to just be supportive of removing those barriers so we can move a little more freely within the council and not tie up police resources if we don't have to, because the art is sealed and there is grit. So there is safety precautions that have been taken into play. So I just wanted to give that perspective to the council.
Thank you. Counselor DiLorenzo. You got it on mute. It's that little microphone, you gotta click it.
There we go.
There you go.
Finally. I was unmuted when you asked us to unmute, Madam Mayor, so I don't know what happened. But anyway, I just wanted to jump back to the polling places for just one moment and ask, I don't know if Mr. Ike or Ms. Drexler could answer this, but at the polling places, will there be poll watchers allowed, or will there be people who, normally we have political parties wanting to support their candidates and carrying signs and greeting voters as they enter a polling place, potentially handing out literature. Given everything this year, will we be allowing parties to, A, have poll watchers present, and B, be standing along the outside perimeter providing literature?
I'll start.
Sharon.
Certainly, you're
Sharon,
allowed,
shaking her head.
Yes.
certainly you're allowed 75-foot limit.
Uh-huh.
You cannot go beyond that 75 limit with politicking. As long as you stay outside the 75-foot limit, you're allowed to do that. I'll let Sharon pick it up from here.
Right.
Thank you. So poll watchers in Connecticut are non-existent. They're not allowed. You can have unofficial checkers, which are people that are running books, are taking down the information that voters have come through. Other than that, you cannot have anybody within that 75-foot sign.
Okay. And as far as handing out literature, is that allowed too, given that, most places you go now, there are no magazines, there are no papers, where it's public, in a public area, there is no items that are touched. So will they be able to hand things out?
I would say that they can hand things out, but it has to be put away by the time that you get within that 75-foot sign. You can't have anything visible supporting a candidate or a question in the state of Connecticut within that 70-foot sign.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And just wanted to add one last comment, as I agree with Councillor Wong. I think that, we definitely should be removing the barriers, at least for the week leading up to election day, because I really don't see why, with all the work that has been done to the circle to make it safer and more protected, why we can't allow the vehicles to drive on there to avoid having the congestion in that area, at least for a short period of time.
Thank you, Councilor DiLorenzo. I know that has been discussed, and I know that the week before election, I think, was what was agreed to. So as stated, no one will be hampered or hindered from casting their vote in this most important election. So thank you. Thank you to our registrars. Thank you to our town clerk. May the force be with you. And we are here supporting you as best as we can. Thank you very much. Right now, I'm going to ask, and it was supposed to be on here, but it's not. I'm going to ask Dave Malesko to give us a quick update about the census. I did hear some disturbing news today. Dave, please unmute yourself. But I'm also going to ask you to hang around for later on when I'm making my report. Please tell us what you know about the census.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm just going to go through a little bit here. Let's talk a little bit about the process. We began doing the census here back in early January. We met as a committee and as a team, came up with a game plan. We came up with a series of events that we were looking to do to help promote the census here in town, to really boost up the self-response rate from in-person gatherings at the library here at the Alvin and Beatrice Wood Human Services Center. But unfortunately, as 2020 goes, COVID has come about, and so that we were not able to move forward with a lot of the events that we did or that we had planned. The planned self-response response phase was from March 12th through July 31st. As a result of the pandemic that's going on, it has been extended from March 12th through October 31st of this month, so of 2020. So in a little bit more into the Bloomfield numbers right now, I'd like to say that the Connecticut self-response rate is at 70.6%. The Hartford County self-response rate is at 72%, and the Bloomfield is at 73.7% response rate. So we are, I wouldn't say well above the Connecticut, but we are above average here in Connecticut, and we are above in the Hartford self-response as well. We did do a series of things in town to help promote this. Like I said, the activities themselves we weren't able to move forward with, but some residents and members on this may have seen some of the banners that we had placed throughout town. We had one at the corner of Blue Hills and Cottage Grove. We had another one in the center of town, and we had another one on Tunxus Avenue. We thought that we'd form a nice triangle here in town to be able to spread the word and to really be able to promote this. And one of the reasons why we were doing it, obviously, it's important on a national level, but some of the reasons to do it at the local level is, the town of Bloomfield received last year $2.2 million directly from the census allocated funds. As a result of that, $860,000 went to the National School Lunch Program. School breakfast received another $250,000, and we could go on and on for the benefits of this. So if any members or anyone listening to this right now has not gone online to fill out the Census 2020, I definitely urge you to do so. You may have actually received a visit by some of the census workers as well. They began sometime in July, going from house to house for residents that did not respond, whether it was mail or through online. Definitely urge you to take the last little bit of time, the last couple of weeks that we have here to go ahead and see if we can get that 73.7% up to 90, or ideally it would be great if we got 100 at this point. So what we did, like I said, I know that the mayor did a PSA on this. We released that on several occasions on the town's website and through email blast. We also had our Elizabeth Lane from our library director do something as well. We also had A-frames throughout all of the town buildings that trying to promote this as well. And we also some of the targeted areas working with the census team at the state level of some of the neighborhoods that were identified. We actually did some direct mail-ins to those households as well.
So thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
I wanted to give an update and then for us to make this grandiose plea. If you haven't filled it out, please don't throw it out, fill it out. But then today I heard on the news, I'm not quite sure how accurate it is that the president wants to suspend the census. They want to take account so that they can make sure to have the numbers by the end of the year. So I know that there's a challenge. The census had been extended to October 31st, but I heard today on the news, and Dave, we're gonna double check that, that the president wants the census suspended. So just in case, if you haven't filled out your census, please, please, please do. And I'm hoping that cooler heads will prevail and will allow the process to continue. So Dave, I thank you very much. Please don't go anywhere, hang out for a little bit. At this time, I don't see any questions for citizen statements. So I'm going to ask for subcommittee reports. I'm going to go with community service. Councilor Wong, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I have nothing to report this time. We do have a community service subcommittee meeting tomorrow at 6, Wednesday, October 14th at 6 o'clock. We have a robust agenda, so I would like maximum participation from my colleagues here if you are able to join at that time. I know it does overlap with some other things around town as far as boards and commissions, and it is a special meeting because we had some other overlaps with some other council committees. So again, tomorrow, October 14th at 6 o'clock p.m. would be our community service subcommittee meeting. Thank you.
Excellent. At this time, I'm going to ask Councilor Curtin to unmute himself, Admin, Education, and Finance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Admin Education Committee met on October 5th, and we basically discussed a few items on that agenda. The one item that we discussed is having the town attorney attend a council meeting once a month. Just for the record, he does attend a council meeting, but just executive session. So we're looking to having him actually participate in a council meeting. There was a consent from the committee to go that route and make a recommendation to the full council, but Attorney Needleman was not able to attend that meeting. So hopefully we could have this discussion with him in the month of November before we make a formal recommendation to the full council. The next item that we discussed during committee is the town manager search. And I know our interim town manager, Phil Shank, once again want to formally welcome him back and thank him for stepping up to the plate and serving the community that he loves. I know this time around, Mr. Shank will be very involved in the process. The first process that we went through as a council, due to the fact that he was the actual town manager, he did the right thing by stepping aside and not being involved in that process. But this time around, I think Mr. Shank will be involved in the process, and he is currently taking the lead for us to go through the process in identifying a search firm so we can go back into the market and start the search. So hopefully tonight, Mr. Shank will give a report on that. We also discussed an item that my colleague, Councilor Wong, brought to the committee in regards to a consent agenda. We're trying to find ways to streamline our meeting and make it more effective, and at the same time, try to compile agenda items that may not have any community attention to the matter may just be formality, and to make that much smoother so we can conduct the town's business in a more effective manner. So I know the mayor did send some recommendations, since that the mayor chairs the council meeting. So hopefully that will be presented at the November meeting for discussion by the committee, and hopefully Councilor Warren would attend to be part of that discussion and make other suggestions. We also had a discussion in regards to the town hiring a communication specialist. This is something that this council has been discussing since 2017. And once again, it's something that was also discussed this morning in the EDC meeting. And I think it's a position that brings value to the town. I think too often we have a lot of folks within the town of Bloomfield on staff that are doing tremendous work. The council is doing work, but for some reason, there is a disconnect with communication getting out to the public. Part of this process is to be able to tell your story. It's hard to have other folks tell your story. I think Bloomfield has a beautiful story. We've made a lot of progress over the years, and there's a lot of things going on here. We need to find a way how to get that information out in a more timely, constrained manner. So I know Mr. Shank will be looking into this as well and making a recommendation to the committee and hopefully to the council. We're going to be going through the budget process in December, starting that work. So this will be something that will be presented to the full council to make a decision on that. We also had some discussion in regards to in-person meeting. I think the committee recommendation was to continue having the Zoom meetings. I know COVID, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know the numbers have been taken up in Connecticut. And to be frank with you, we've had a lot of participation in the various subcommittee meetings and council meetings. And I don't see the benefit. I see more of a risk in having in-person meetings, especially in our council chambers. I know there were discussions to have it in the human facility building, but at the same time, that also creates some challenges in regards to cleaning the facility afterwards. So I think the committee's recommendation to the council is to continue with the Zoom meetings. And, I think we all have to admit that through COVID, there's a lot of changes and there's a lot of adaptation. So hopefully this will be a hybrid going forward in the future, having in-person meetings and also having meetings at the same time on this sort of platform. We also discussed BATV and the communications with the town. To be frank with you, I think over the last few months, the last 6 months or so, due to COVID, I think there have been some challenges, especially with BATV moving out of the human service building into the middle school and not having access to cable based on my understanding. And I think the town as a whole has to look to find ways to get our communications out. And this environment has created a platform in a sense where even when we get back into the council chambers, there is the technology out there where we can have, we can invest in the equipments to, have cameras where you don't need the manpower to operate it. So those are things that we're currently looking into. Obviously, BATV is an independent organization, nonprofit, and they have to make decisions to how they adjust. But I currently know that BATV have an old analog system that doesn't work well. And based on the discussions we had, personally, I don't have Comcast anymore. And I know that's the wave that people are doing. People are streaming, people are looking at things on YouTube. Tonight, we have roughly around 12 or so participants that are viewing this council meeting. And sometimes we have 30 per se. So those are things that we're going to discuss. I know Mr. Shank is also taking the lead on this. Welcome back, Mr. Shank. And the last item that we discuss is distribution regarding the community food. And I know the mayor will discuss that tonight, and I will leave that to her because I attended the event, I volunteered, and I thought that it was a really good event. And the community came out, not only in the town of Bloomfield, but you had folks from Windsor, folks from West Hartford, folks from Hartford came out. And I have to tell you, you couldn't sit there and identify, okay, this person is in need. You had a variety of folks across the line coming out and looking for assistance. So this is a time to help. And I know Bloomfield has always stepped up to the plate. And this is just an additional example of what we do in the town of Bloomfield. So I just want to commend the mayor for the job, and the mayor of West Hartford, the mayor of Windsor for pulling together and doing this great event. And I also just want to commend Rehoboth Church for also opening up their parking lot to the town of Bloomfield. They have a great campus and it was well organized. The volunteers, we had multiple volunteers from all over the 3 towns that I've mentioned that came out. So there was a section for them to park. There was a section where folks can come through, get the forms, and also pull up to the various stations, put the food in the car. Obviously, you had to have a mask on. You had to keep your window up. So I'm a little bit confused about folks going into a voting station that don't have to have a mask. That's kind of confusing to me. So hopefully we'll have little discussions about that. But that's the end of my report, Madam Mayor. I don't have anything to report for finance. We have a finance committee meeting on October 19 at 6:30. So I look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety Counselor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Public Safety met tonight at 6 p.m. before this meeting. We got a report from the different agencies, as always. The police department remains on budget, even though they, as we know, they've been having some overtime issues. They have 61 full-time staff. Their budgeted for currently, and they have 49 sworn officers they're budgeted for. Currently, they have 5 vacancies, but the recruitment process is underway. One caution by the chief was he went to a conference of the Northwest Regional Police Chiefs, and they are seeing a very large reduction in applications for police departments. He said last year, I think in Farmington, they have been hiring, and they had 300 applications. This year they're hiring and they had 65. So there's a little bit of caution about the number of people out there looking at this point, but we are recruiting. Crime was down on a year-over-year basis for September. We're still up slightly for the year at 2%. One of the things I really want to emphasize for anyone listening out there, and I think we're going to put out a public service announcement on this, in the last 45 days, we've seen a lot of increase in car break-ins, that basic type of larceny that happens starting this time of year, I think, specifically when people start running their cars and leaving them going. The big thing with this is crime that is preventable. This is something that if you take precautions, you do not leave your car unlocked, you do not leave valuables in your car, this can be easily prevented. So the chief reminded us of that message, and we will be getting something out on that in the next few weeks. There were two other things of note. There were 2 use of force cases this month. That was a good from last month when we had a high month of 7, and none of these were really that serious. But as you know, the Bloomfield Police Department takes use of force very seriously. We are an accredited department, and because of that, we categorize things as use of force if there's even any verbal indication of reaching for a taser or a gun. So that was good news. The other thing that's interesting, and the chief does not really have necessarily an understanding of why. I think we can all look at the national news and what's going on around the country, and has been for the last several years, and maybe infer from this, and then COVID exacerbates it. Pistol permits requests for pistol permits are extremely high. Our department has had 246 year to date. That is versus 80 last year. So that's basically a 3 times increase from last year. So just something to be aware of out there. The meeting was fun because we had the 2 shortest fire reports I think we've ever had, and the Blue Hills Fire Department and the Center Fire Departments still tend to track pretty equivalently. with Blue Hills having 361 calls year to date, and the Center Fire District 392 year to date. They both had about 30 calls in September, and most of them were false alarms. Although the Center Fire District had a couple of elevator evacuations, which was interesting. The EMS folks actually are looking at volunteerism. They're taking a serious look at that. They formed a subcommittee to look at current staffing, volunteer staffing, current future volunteer staffing, recognizing that, especially in this COVID environment, they've lost some volunteers, not because anyone has got COVID, but because there are some people who are obviously have to be very careful about the risks they take in going into an emergency situation. We will be scheduling a public forum. A statutory hearing is required. We will be scheduling a public forum on October 28th for discussion of the resolution that was passed by Public Safety back in March before COVID came along, to discuss legalization of cannabis in the state of Connecticut. This was originally, is tied, I guess, to the bill that was going to be introduced in the legislature, and we've all heard that that will be reintroduced. But when the Public Safety Subcommittee unanimously recommended that resolution onto the full council for approval and a vote, we did say that before we would do that, we would have a public forum to hear both of those for, those against, and those with all shades of opinion in between. And we are going to try to do that on Zoom. We've been postponing it a bit, waiting to see how the meeting environment is going to shake out. But I think that it is true that certainly for large public gatherings, there is not going to be we're not going to be able to do that for some time. Finally, we spent most of the meeting talking about a document prepared by the police chief, the town planner, the town engineer, that looks at a comprehensive traffic calming plan so that citizens who have concerns on their street with speeding, cut through, truck traffic, what have you, can come to the town, and then if certain criteria are met, there will be a mitigation plan put in place. And I think it's a very robust draft document. The next steps are for the committee to review this and to maybe come up with some test cases to at least conceptually understand what will be done in those cases. And then if the administration adopts this policy and we move forward, there will have to be some money, we're not sure how much, allocated in the budget for just the infrastructure of this. If we put in speed humps, that costs a little bit of money. If we put a traffic narrowing in an intersection, that costs some money, both startup and maintenance. So that the revised document will ultimately be posted to the website, and I urge anyone watching this meeting to take a look at it. And again, as we get closer to that and it gets finalized, I'm sure there will be some more public opportunities to comment. It will certainly be, it's ancillary to the complete streets plan, which I know that land use, I think, will be bringing back sometime in the near future. So that completes my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilor Calhoun, Committee on Committees, please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do not have a report for Committee on Committees. We have not scheduled a meeting for October as of yet. Please stay tuned. Thank you.
At this point, I think I needed to make a correction. Committee on Committees, we did appoint for the Community Awareness Task Force. I think they had the Dunsey Graham Days on the list. It should have been Halistine Graham Days. So I just wanted to publicly make that correction. Deputy Mayor, please unmute yourself. Land Use and Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next meeting of Land Use and Economic Development is next Tuesday, the 20th. At that time, we will be reviewing our first draft of the TIF program that covers the 3 areas that were designated in town. And it goes into more detail as to what is going to be the process by which these parcels are advertised for development and how, and goes into great detail on the amount of real estate taxation that currently exists and what is anticipated with the with build outs on the properties that we're identifying, the difference of which, of course, goes 50% of that will go to public improvements in these areas. The other item we'll be talking on was the utility scale solar energy policy, which you may not be familiar with. The state siting council is responsible for any projects over 1 megawatt. They have a great deal of control. They have all the control. Communities are beginning to get a little more proactive about setting policy standards for projects under the 1 megawatt basis, because we anticipate there's going to be more of them. So what this policy is being written to do is to provide some development criteria by which we are sure that the adjacent areas to whatever areas are selected, and we might have something to say about that too, will at least be controlled so that there's no negative impact on adjacent property owners, residential, commercial, or otherwise. So that's an item that percolated up through the EDC and the CEEC, and they were asked to, at the last meeting, to weigh in again on an interim policy that Jose Geiner, the planner, has put together since he represents both of those parties. So that will be up for discussion. Both of those items may wind up on the council agenda for the next 1st of November. So we'll keep that in mind. Let's see. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Golf, Councilor DiLorenzo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Golf Ad Hoc Committee had a special meeting on October the 6th, and so I wanted to provide a few updates for tonight. From a financial perspective, in general, due to COVID, there's really been a resurgence in golf, and it has increased overall in many places, and that includes Bloomfield and the Winterberry Hills Golf. And so as a result of that, our August rounds were up higher than they were last year. And so our year to date is also up higher as well. And we expect to gross above our budget for the month of August. What is happening though is we are seeing less money being spent in the pro shop and in the food and beverage department. However, we are able to save money because of the cost of goods and services being lower. And so that is helping. So that eases the blow of that decrease in what was expected in revenues for the pro shop and the food and beverage. That total actually was about $55,000 less in expenses overall. So with the golf rounds, we more or less even out for the month. September is actually being predicted to be a better month than August, and we expect to exceed our numbers there. Our men's club is doing very well. They actually donated a TV to the golf club, the golf course. And there's going to be a couple of fundraisers coming up on October the 18th. There's a fundraiser that will benefit the Bloomfield Food Bank. And there will also be the 6th annual Toys for Tots, which will occur on October the 25th. And there's also a Black Friday event, but I don't have all the details on that one. Maybe Mr. Malesko does and can give us the info there. As far as the 2020 forecast for the remainder of the year, we do expect to exceed our budget. And at this time, there are no unforeseen expenses. We did have some discussion regarding the 2021 rates, and we're going to continue to have that discussion at the end of this month when we meet again. We are expecting to have some slight increases in the rates next year, and that will include the walking fees as well as the cart fees. So, we would really prefer more people to walk the course than to use the carts. That's because, the carts do give a lot of wear and tear on the turf. And there's a lot of maintenance to the carts. So, if we also have a lot of people wanting the carts, we run out of them sooner, and we can't provide carts for everyone who really does want one. So we are hoping that people will walk. And the irrigation system, if you recall, I mentioned in a previous meeting that we did put out an RFP for that. That was awarded to Paul Granger. And that was basically about a $4,000 bid. And that is for the irrigation systems. They will be going through and providing us with the cost of replacing parts of the irrigation system at the next, actually be in the November, it won't be at the end of this month, it will be in the November meeting. And then lastly, we had a discussion around the needs, the capital needs for 2021. And this, the golf course is getting up there in age, and it does need a lot of things that need to be done to keep it in its pristine condition and to make it attractive and appealing to not only our residents, but out-of-towners as well. So we have some critical items that were recommended, one being a top dresser, a utility vehicle, a greens mower. And these are items that we're going to be looking into, whether we can find a way to purchase some of these now, or if at some point we need to create a bond issue that will be longer term, where we could combine many of the things that we need for capital improvements and try to have this as part of something that we do out to our voters as, a bond. And that would cover a lot of these bigger high cost maintenance items that we need to do. So there is more to come on that. We're expecting to get a report to talk about what we need from a holistic perspective and what some of those scenarios look like. And then we're going to take it from there. We'll also be bringing this up at Councilor Curtin's Finance Committee, where we will be having our debt service advisor coming in to talk about where things stand with our debt. And so more to come on this topic, especially critical now as we're getting into the end of the year and starting up a new budget year, that is, and starting a new budget season. So with that, I believe that concludes my report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go into new business. 20/21-23. Consider and take action regarding certificate of authority for interim town manager, Bill Shank Jr. Is there a motion on the floor? So the problem about me trying to unmute you guys, or you guys unmuting yourselves, is because you didn't listen. So Councilor Curtin, I saw your hand, and then Deputy Mayor, I saw your hand. So Councilor Curtin.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I move to resolve that Phil K. Shank Jr., interim town manager, is hereby authorized to execute, approve on behalf of the town of Bloomfield any and all contracts relevant to the town of Bloomfield, and to execute, approve on behalf of the town of Bloomfield other instruments, a part of or incident to such contract effective until February 28, 2021, or otherwise ordered by the Bloomfield Town Council.
I'll second.
Any discussions?
Yep, discussions. No, I know I mentioned it briefly before, and once again, this is just a testament of the dedication this man has given to this town in the last 5 or 6 years. He heard the bell and he stepped up. He didn't have to come back. So I just want to commend Mr. Shank for coming back and serving the town of Bloomfield. I know how much he loves the town, and just welcome back, Phil. I'm happy to see him.
Any other discussion point? Councilor Merritt, if you can unmute yourself. You got to unmute yourself. You're still muted.
You wouldn't let me do it, so.
There you go. You're done. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I I want to second the comment. I think we really owe Phil some appreciation for his stepping up and coming back in to help us out. It was a time we needed him very badly, and he's just so good to see him here. So thank you, Phil.
All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. 2021-24, consider and take action regarding tax refund. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that the tax refund per attached schedule be approved in accordance with the memorandum dated October 8th, 2020.
Is there a second? I see Councilor DiLorenzo. Are there any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. So this next item, 2021-25, discussion and possible action involving settlement of pending litigations. We will take that item up after our executive session. At this time, we're going to have a report from our mayor and our town manager. I am going to go first. We've been able to do some amazing things in Bloomfield over the last few years, and I am so excited about them. However, sometimes when you do good, there's always someone that's trying to just give you a black eye. On last Friday, we partnered with the mayors of West Hartford, Mayor Sherry Cantor, and Windsor Mayor Don Tranks. And we were able to distribute 1,780 boxes of food and milk. And we did this on the grounds of the Rehoboth Church of God. And I'm going to ask Dave just to give us some backstory on that, because once again, I heard there was a complaint, and whoever filed the complaint can take it to whatever level they need to. The people that helped me to be able to get the truck to Rehoboth, they knew exactly where the distribution site was. Actually, they created the flyer for the distribution site. And because Rehoboth is a distribution site, we've given out over 1 million boxes, 1 million of food. So Dave, if you can just give us some background as to the planning and the process and why we ended up where we ended up, I'd appreciate that. Please unmute yourself, sir. There you go.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was brought to us a few weeks back, working, I think, contact through the mayor and the Prosperity Foundation, Yvonne Davis, who's doing this at several locations throughout the state of Connecticut. Bloomfield was fortunate enough to be able to be included in this, as the mayor mentioned, 1,780 meals. As soon as we got word of this, we organized throughout the town. We brought in our planning, Jose Geiner, our director of planning and zoning, the police department, senior services, social and youth services, DPW, as many of the agencies in town that we could in order to figure out how we would be able to house this here in town. We did look at several locations. Our first preferred location in town was Blue Hills Fire Department. We thought that that would be a nice location. It's right off of being right on Blue Hills Avenue, right off of Cottage Grove Road, close to the city. We thought that that would be an ideal location. At that point in time, we thought that there was going to be somewhere between 500 and 600 meals that would be distributed. But in addition to that, we wanted to do our due diligence. We wanted to look at all possible locations in town, because even with that number, we thought that traffic might be somewhat of a concern. Our greatest fear was for it to bottleneck and to cause traffic on Blue Hills Avenue. So we looked up, we had Jose Geiner pull up the GIS map. We looked at all places that we could think of. Cigna was one location. We looked at Sacred Heart Church because we knew that we've used that for a staging area in the past for the Memorial Day Parade. And then we started looking a little bit further north. We wanted to, like I said, look at all possible places here in town. So going through that, Blue Hills Fire Department was still our preferred. And then once it went from that 500, 600 number up to close to 1,800 meals, we've realized that Blue Hills Fire Department probably wasn't going to work. Even if we cut off access from Blue Hills Avenue, we looked at bringing traffic in from Chapel Street onto and from School Street and even Tyler Street down Rockwell. But we had concerns that it would tie up too much in the neighborhood as well. This event was scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. and go till 2:30. So for traffic concerns, after going through all of the locations and being on a main strip, Rehoboth Church was identified as a strong possibility. So we reached out to Rehoboth Church. They opened their doors to us. All of our services that we did were on grounds. We put together a logistics map on how traffic control, where the point of entry would be, where the exit point would be, where all of the volunteers would be, the distribution area. And it made sense for us to go to that location due to one, the location, the size of the parking lot, and the overflow parking lot that they had. We knew that we could get easily 100 cars in there, probably closer to 150 if needs be. So that's a little bit of the background for the traffic and the location and why we chose the place that we did at Rehoboth Church of God.
Thank you so much. I think sometimes the backstory is important. When we do events or something of this magnitude, people probably only see the event. I know some people just drove by, slowed down, and kept on going. But others of us that actually went in to lift boxes and to see the appreciation on the faces of those people that came through to get a box of, I think it was like 22 pounds or 20 pounds. And a gallon of milk. You had produce, you had meat, you had anything that you could have needed for a family, especially during this time of pandemic where people get laid off or furloughed and then they get laid off and lose their jobs. The amount of people that came through and the amount of time that they came through was amazing. And for the first time that we did it last week, everybody, leisure services, senior services, social services, police, fire, West Hartford, Windsor, everyone came out. And the only thing they wanted to do was to serve our community. The nurses from UConn came out, and they're going to be with us every single week. It was amazing. The governor came out. It was wonderful. And I thank Phil, who jumped in on Friday, and he made sure that we did this and that we did it well because he wanted to make sure that our community was served. So once again, I wanted to make sure that whomever is out there that's complaining about this, understand that we were on the property of a church because it made sense, because it was able to help us out as we made a tangible impact to our community. We had it on a day that service was not in session. We were not in the building. No one was out handing out flyers, communion, or holy oil. We served our community. And I want to thank everyone that came out to help us. And we did it last week, and I'm sure we're going to be better at it this week. I can also say that we did do some deliveries. I did some door knocking with deliveries, and our residents are just so grateful. And I wanted to make sure that it was on that side of town so that everybody could come. Councilor Curtin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make sure we take every concern serious. Was this concern filed with the town manager? Was there one of our residents that had the concern, and did you provide them some context around why we use that facility per se?
So the complaint was filed with the town manager. And that's why I am just trying to make it open. And that's why I wanted to get some background from Dave so that everyone, counselors and residents alike, everyone understand what went into the process of finding a location and why it was on that location. Dave, do you have that, the aerial?
Madam Mayor, can I recommend that either yourself or the town manager write a letter to that concerned resident? Once again, we should take everyone concerned serious and pretty much outline what Dave explained so that resident will have an understanding of why that site was used per se.
I will leave that up to town manager Shane.
Okay,
I'll
thank
talk
you.
with him offline to get that done. Thank you.
Okay.
Dave, do you have an aerial?
I do. I'll share my screen.
I just want everyone to understand the footprint of the campus.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this is the map that we put together. This was more to be used for in-house for when we were coming up with designated areas for where the traffic flow, how the traffic flow itself would go, and stations for volunteers and staff would come in. So heading north onto Blue Hills Avenue, they would come in and take a right. They would come around this circle where a volunteer would continue to point them into the direction. They'd come along this flow line. At this location, the staff and volunteers here would find out how many adults and families are in the vehicle so that we could figure out how many meals to distribute. And we were also passing out a flyer for promoting the event the distribution during the full month of October. So all of the patrons would have a clear understanding of how long we would be doing this. And then we would move down the traffic flow going around with the arrows and so forth. And so this is why we thought it was such a good location, basically because of this overflow parking area. And at the beginning of before we opened the doors at 10 o'clock, traffic did fill up into this area, and it was actually filling up close to Blue Hills Avenue right before we closed off. So they would, or before we opened the doors, they would continuously flow, come through this way. At this point, they broke off into two lines at this location. And then we had the staff volunteers direct them to come around the bend, and then they would continue in their two lines. And at this point, they would stop. There would be a sign at this location that said, please pop your trunk, because it was important for no physical contact. Windows needed to be rolled up so that they would pop their trunks. Then they would wave them on into the food distribution that's in here at 4 cars at a time per lane. So we could take 8 vehicles at a time at this location. As they pulled up, volunteers and staff would then load it into the trunk. They would close the trunk, and then they would they would depart the property, taken right onto 187 Blue Hills Avenue. So we did not permit a left onto Blue Hills Avenue for traffic flow purposes.
Thank you. Once again, it was an amazing day. We were supposed to be out there till 2:30. Unfortunately, we couldn't. The boxes were gone. There was about 50 to 75 cars that didn't get anything. Cars were parked in line, I think, after 8, after 9. They were waiting. And my only fear, again, is that we're going to run out of food. But the good thing is First Cathedral also does a distribution on Saturday. So we do have some place to tell them that they can go. So once again, it's open to everyone. Come out, lift the box, and serve our community. Tangible ways to serve our community. Councilor Curtin, you have your hand.
I was just going to say, Madam Mayor, I think it's important to hear from our colleagues if they see any problem with us using that facility as a means to distribute the food, because I think it's important to hear from the council itself. So I would, if anyone on the council have a problem, I think this is an opportunity to speak to it as well.
Councilor Merritt.
Yes, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
I think it's ridiculous that somebody would have a problem with that. I'm sorry. I just do. I mean, we have cooperative things with other churches all the time. So it's, I think I'm glad you did it and I'm glad it worked out so well.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Goff, please unmute yourself. You gotta unmute yourself. You gotta unmute yourself, sir. That's why I asked you all to let me do it, but you all want to do it, so I don't know.
Here we go. Here we go.
All right.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm of the other mind than Councilor Merritt. I find this. Okay. Hold on. Am I on? Yes. I'm of the other mind than Councilor Merritt. I want to remind people what happened, I don't know, roughly 10, 15 years ago, when the town of Enfield wanted to have their graduation at the First Cathedral. That was ultimately disallowed as a violation of separation of church and state. Unfortunately, I think we're in the same situation here. I have heard myself from several residents of great concern about this. And regardless of how good the merit of distributing food is, I think entanglement between a town government and a church is very problematic. I think that I'm very concerned that town officials, people working for the town, would not take that into consideration. I don't know. I was not involved with this at all, so I don't know why locations with the other participating towns were considered. Yes, it's a great outcome. Feeding people and giving food are wonderful. It's wonderful that churches do that when the event is a church-sponsored event. But this is an entanglement issue. And unfortunately, we're seeing that at a national level. We've seen the barriers break down among all things, and I personally do not find it acceptable. And I know there are other residents that don't find it acceptable, but I imagine that on this basis, I will be an outlier. Thank you.
So one of the difference between what we're doing and what the schools were doing, they were having a event inside the building. They were having an event inside the auditorium of the church. We are outside on the premises. Once again, we're not inside. The church is not coming outside. So the organizers of this event is very clear that we here in Bloomfield is having it at the church. When we started talking about this with the other towns, I realized that there was a greater need here in Bloomfield. We're talking about our Alice families. We're talking about families that had jobs, great paying jobs, that lost their jobs. If any community was going to do it, why not our community, especially during this pandemic? So while you bring up the concern about schools having their graduation ceremony in a religious edifice, building, auditorium, it's not the same thing as us distributing food on the grounds of the church. And once again, it's okay because we're all entitled to our opinions. The organizers of this event knows exactly where we're having the distribution. Any other comment on this? I mean, it was supposed to be a short agenda, but we're stuck in the moment. Councilor Goff. Yes, sir. You're muted.
Allowing me.
You were unmuted and then you muted yourself.
Okay, there, now I'm unmuted. Madam Mayor, I apologize in terms of, I just to let people know what is happening. When you say to unmute, it then says the host is not allowing. So I think, as you pointed out, it's because people have muted and not muted. I understand. We're off on that. I just will make one final comment because I think that part of the issue here, you mentioned, I mentioned the church graduation issue because that is one that has been decided, and where the ACLU stepped in. As you pointed out, in that case, part of the issue was the correlation between going to graduation and being in a religious building, and the implications that could imply for people putting those together. While this is in a parking lot, and you want to make an issue that makes it less of a problem. I would also point out that one of the things that is happening here is people in need of all sorts are getting a message that they're going to a church and when they drive in there, they certainly know it's a church, even if it's a parking lot, and they are getting their needs met. If that's what's happening with respect to food. So I think there are associations, even if it's in a parking lot. And again, I think it's completely legitimate for individuals to have those associations. I think the problem is that governments, I think the problem is with government entangling itself with that and making it a government program, a government sponsored program that is taking place at a church facility. That's my viewpoint on it. As you point out, we are entitled to have different opinions on this, but I think it is something that I'm surprised town officials allowed, and I think it's something that we need to be very concerned about, actually. Thank you.
So once again, thank you very much for your opinion. First Amendment rights. Those people, 1,780 people that got food and milk, they're grateful. Food Share distributes food at churches. If we were in East Hartford, we'd have probably done it at Rensselaer Field, but we're not. So I want to thank Rehoboth for opening their parking lot, their campus to us. And thank you to everyone that made it such a wonderful success last week. I'm excited to see what this week is going to bring and the weeks ahead. So thank you very much for that. I also wanted to thank Ms. Sophia Shepherd for nominating Bloomfield as the nicest town in the state of Connecticut. And thank you to Reader's Digest for making that a reality for us. It's great when our residents know how to take care of each other, especially during crisis. That's the great thing about Bloomfield. We know how to come together during a crisis and not be selfish or tunnel vision, but be able to take care of each other. So I wanted to thank Miss Sophia Shepherd for that, and for all the other residents that voted for us. It's an amazing honor. That's one of the things that the governor said when he was at the distribution point on Friday, that it's a testament to who we are as a town. So that's great. I see Councilor Calhoun with her hand up. Please unmute yourself, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you speak on what was the distribution for those families that didn't have vehicles, or what type of accommodations were made for delivery / pickup? I know you mentioned that you had delivered maybe some,
right.
So there were others.
Some of the senior homes came to pick up for their residents. Federation Square, they came to pick up for their residents. I think we only had one walk up. Mostly everyone else came in a car. Some in the car was more than one family, one household. We did deliver to, I want to say, two of the places here in town. One that's close to Contours and the condominium complex. And it was just
Senior
not.
housing, the
Yeah,
senior
just
housing.
knocking on doors and letting people know that we're in the community. We know that there's some difficulties, and we brought them a box of food, and they were grateful. There was this one grandmother who had to take in her grandkids because of whatever happened with her daughter and her job and everything else. The house was filled with kids. She couldn't come out. She was grateful. Those are the things that keep us going, right? Those are the stories to help you know that you're doing a good thing.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Mayor.
very welcome. So back to Sophia. So yes, I'm sure you all heard about it. I'm sure you all saw it. So kudos to Bloomfield and to our residents, or kudos to our residents and to Bloomfield. There's another thing that has happened. Our former town manager is now our interim town manager, Bloomfield. It's okay. It's not the Twilight Zone. So I'm going to make a statement. And Attorney Needleman's on the phone, on the email, so he will ding me if I do it wrong. Our former town manager, Mr. Smith, is no longer with us. I have signed a non-disparaging agreement on behalf of the town. I'm going to honor that. But what I'm going to say is, in order for anything to happen on this council of 9, you need to have a majority vote. Once again, in order for anything to happen on this council of 9, you need to have a majority vote. And for anyone who wants to make it seem like councilors don't have a vote, I think it's disrespectful. That's all that I'm going to say on that matter. I'm going to thank Mr. Shank for coming back. Mr. Shank and I had a really wonderful working relationship for 2.5 years. Mutual respect, and a mutual goal of servicing the residents of this town. He has retired before, and we kept him a lot longer than he wanted to stay. He's come back as our interim town manager, and he says, listen, I'm gonna come back to help, but you're gonna have to cut me some slack too. When it's time to go, it's time to go. So I'm really grateful. As I said, he hit the ground running on Friday, getting this food distribution thing up and going. And I just want to thank him for that. Thank you, Phil, for your dedication to the community. Thank you for your dedication to the staff. And thank you for your dedication to the council. At this time, I'll give you an opportunity to give your report. Please unmute yourself. I tell you, it's easier if you all let me do it, but no. No, go ahead. I can't. Because you muted, I can't unmute you. There you go.
All right, there we go. At least it's, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. As all of you may know, my wife and I live in town, and we're committed to the community, and I'm pleased to be able to contribute to the community as we go forward. I don't have a lot to report. I started a week ago Friday, and we got right into the food distribution program. But there are a number of things that are going on. We will be looking, and I think many of the subcommittee reports touched upon these items. So we will be looking more closely at these, including communication with the community. We'll also be looking at that communication issue in a number of different ways. First of all, recording, working with BATV, and perhaps doing something independent since they're really not up and operating at this point in time. We're starting to explore the distribution of broadband service. The city of Hartford has been successful in doing that. And so we're starting to look at perhaps how we can provide that to the community and the business community at the 5G level, perhaps, if we can do that. I'd also like to indicate that I will be undertaking final vetting, if you will, of a new finance director and a public works director. We've selected 2 individuals. We still have to do background checks and other things on those, but we'll be moving ahead with that this week. And hopefully those appointments will be taken care of. Also, I just wanted to say that if there are things that the community needs or residents have, I want them to feel free to call our office. It's a little awkward coming into the office. I do have an open door, so take that as being an open door on the phone, via email, via text. You can always get hold of us, and we'll try to do the best in resolving your problems. So thank you for your support. And as we move ahead in Bloomfield, we're here to serve you all. So that completes my report at this point, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 29th? Councilor DiLorenzo made the motion. Is there a second? Councilor Curtin made the second. Are there any discussions? Deputy Mayor, please go ahead and unmute yourself. You're still muted. Still muted. Still muted. There you
Okay.
go. There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to call India's attention to a word, proper word on page 7 under 2021-21. It's a severance agreement with Robert Smith, not an employment agreement. That was it.
Oh,
Sorry.
Councilor Goff, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to note, because of all the meeting stuff, I was not present at this meeting, so I will be abstaining from voting on the minutes. Thanks.
All in favor? Any opposed? And 1 abstention. At this time, okay, we're gonna go with council comments. I'm gonna ask Councilor Merritt to go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Oh, thank you. I really am appreciative of all the efforts that people have done to make the events of the last few weeks happen as smoothly as they did. Our town attorney, Phil Shank, and anybody else that was involved with making a bad situation go rather smoothly, transition. And I think people involved in that deserve a lot of credit. And I hope we can move ahead and put the last year behind us, and hopefully we'll get over this virus crisis and a few other things, and have a good town. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Goff, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
There we go. That's working. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of comments on local things, except a little bit ancillary. I do think that people, some people who follow the council a bit, may know that the reason I missed the last meeting was I had my wife and I, with another couple, had planned a biking trip a few months ago, and did not realize that the council meeting was actually on Tuesday rather than Monday, because we left Tuesday specifically to be here for the council meeting on Monday. So that didn't work out. But the biking trip we took was to bike the Great Allegheny Passage, called the Gap, which is a bike trail or railroad line between Pittsburgh and Cumberland, Maryland, and you can bike it either way. But besides the enjoyment of doing that, the other thing that I was interested in seeing was seeing how a lot of communities that are trying to revitalize themselves because of because they are in cold country, southwestern Pennsylvania, and a lot of the towns and the economies are have been very depressed for the last 20 years. How they're trying to reinvent themselves as trail towns. And it was a really interesting experience because these towns, a lot of them, and it varies from place to place, are trying to rebuild themselves sort of from the bottom up. And they're going local. They're trying to promote local businesses. They're trying to promote entrepreneurial things, the kinds of things you'd expect. And, I think that this is something that ultimately will be a boon, could be a boon to the entire region as we start trying to reinvent our economy after COVID. We already have some of this going on the Farmington River Trail in Collinsville. You've seen revitalization there. And the bike trail that's going to go through, that ultimately, hopefully, will connect all of Bloomfield and will go through Bloomfield as part of the East Coast Greenway. And I can't imagine a day when a lot of the towns along this Greenway will try to be doing some of the same strategies as along the Gap Trail. So I really, I was doing this with a little bit of an eye of seeing what was going on out there, and it was encouraging. Obviously, what would happen here in this region in New England would be much different from what would happen in Pennsylvania. And just sort of as an aside ancillary to that, I would like to end with a quote tonight. My wife comes from Rumford, Pennsylvania, Rumford, Maine, rather. And this book just came out. It's called Milltown. And it's the subtitle is called Reckoning with What Remains. Rumford, Maine is, again, another town which in the 50s, I think it had the highest per capita number of automobiles in terms of prosperity east of the Mississippi, because it was a paper mill town. And it was founded as a paper mill town in the late 1800s. The paper mill is still there, but as with much of the manufacturing economy has declined. And there's in this new book, there's a great paragraph, and I just want to read that as my quote. The paragraph goes, oh, and I should mention, the paper mill town has also, over time, it's been discovered that while the economy boomed, there were lots of toxins in that paper, in the paper mill. There were lots of environmental damage that went into the town and into the citizens with cancers, et cetera, and into the Androscoggin River. So anyway, the quote is as follows. The quote is as follows. The paragraph. John McPhee once wrote, quote, "Rivers are the ultimate metaphors of existence, and my father knew this too. But ours is an existence shaped by natural forces and human intervention, capitalism and its consequences, economic crimes without punishment, war without peace. In this existence, we vowed to keep each other for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, but mostly we just keep the richer afloat, which has littered our landscape with abandoned towns, mauled forests, toxics napping out of the ground, poisoned fish that can't swim upstream, and ravaged human beings who thought such neglect didn't do them any harm. It's a neo-feudalistic future, the foreground to the background of burdens almost too much for our bodies, my body, to bear. We are all complicit to different degrees, even in those things we omit, like the silence we fail to break, the things we can't bear to say. This existence is only a glimpse of what's to come. What would the world be like if we all changed our demands?" And that's sort of a little bit of the message I got from these towns. We have, they are trying to change the way that they have lived for probably a century. And I think with the COVID pandemic and some of the changes that are likely in our economy, we're going to have to reinvent ourselves in the same way and ask what our demands really are. Thank you.
Councillor Di Lorenzo, please unmute yourself, sir.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just also wanted to add my welcome to Phil. Welcome back, Phil. We're happy to have you. Just a couple quick things. I hope everyone has seen the work taking place on Philly Park. It's finally happening. The big mound of dirt, yay, right? The big mound of dirt is starting to get smaller. And the work is taking place on the island at Philly Park. You can see a lot of the, I don't know what you call it, but there's a lot of barrier that's around the island. And that's where the work is being done. So hopefully that will be complete by the end of, by the end of the season. And in regard to that, the Philly Park Committee has also announced that they are going to be at the park on Saturday, the 17th of October, to do some bridge painting. And there's an old wooden bridge on one side of the island, and that is in need of repair. So they will be there working on that bridge. And certainly if anyone is interested in stopping by, please feel free to do so. Also, if you go out onto the website, you'll see that our resident photographer, Dennis Hubbs, has posted some nice pictures of the work being started on the center island there. So you'll see some very nice, nice photos out there. And with that, I will end my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Calhoun. Yep,
Good
you're
evening.
good.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I've stated in prior committee meetings, I would hope that everyone is continuing to be safe under these COVID guidelines. I know we're under stage 3 opening, but there has been an uptick as we've been all following our local and government news. So continue, please. Because we don't know how long or when we're in each other's presence, that it will take effect. It may impact us as families, as smaller groups. So please continue to be safe. Continue to wear your mask. Again, thank you very much.
Councilor Politis.
Just going to echo just a couple sentiments of my previous welcome to Mr. Shank. Welcome back to Mr. Shank. Haven't had the privilege to work with you, but I'm looking forward to it. To reiterate what Councilor Merritt said, very much looking to moving forward and moving down the line. And then to Councilor Calhoun, last Thursday, we opened up phase 3 of our recovery or reopening. And today it's been announced on the news that we've now climbed over to like 2.5% testing rate, positive testing rate again. So as we things start to move inside, I think we just need to do a PSA and just say, continue to wear your masks, maintain 6 feet of social distancing, continue to wash your hands, and continue to be safe. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Curtin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to start off with my comments by saying I would like to request the separation agreement with Mr. Smith be available with the final agenda that goes out, and to have that available online. I think it's important for that information to be available to the public. It's public information. I just want to make sure that's available for our residents. I had no plans to address this tonight, but through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to address an article that was not an article, an op-ed that was published in the Messenger. And I want to start off by saying that I was hoping tonight that Councilor Goff would take this opportunity to express how he feels with various issues, because I do believe that we all were elected as officials to address issues that may come up. And this is the right platform to do so. The public do have a right to hear us debate issues and to get different opinions on the topic. What you don't have a right to do is discard the truth in an op-ed. I think that's a cowardly move, in my opinion, to put something in the papers and sit at a council meeting and not address it. So I will attempt to address some of the misinformation that was put in that article. And the one area that I would like to address is the whole premise around that Bloomfield and the difference between the town manager and the council. I think there's this misnotion by Mr. Goff, where he keeps putting part of the information out. But I wanted to just explain to our residents tonight that I do believe in our form of government in the town of Bloomfield. It's a council manager form of government. What does that mean? It means that the town of Bloomfield, the council who was elected by the resident, didn't have an opportunity to hire a professional, a town manager. And through that relationship, that town manager reports back to the council. And by right, the council do have an opportunity to question things. And that's why we're here. We're here to the town manager is here to implement our policies and carry through. And if that's not happening, the council do have an obligation and responsibility to hold that town manager responsible. So I just want to clear that up. Our job is to hold the town manager accountable. We're not saying it's in a confrontational manner, but that's dishonest to say that any member of this council cannot reach out to the town manager with concern, and the town manager responsibilities to bring that up with the full body and address it. So that to me is not fully providing residents information as far as what goes on. I believe in what I would encourage my colleague, Councilor Goff, to do. Please do address your concern on the council. I do respect your opinion. We all have an opinion, like you stated tonight with the church. I have a different opinion about that, but you have to address those concerns in this format. I think it's dishonest what you do on a regular basis now, and I did hear from a lot of residents. You need to discuss the issues here. I would encourage you to do so. Thank you very much, and I just want to continue to encourage our residents to be safe, protect yourself, and we're going to continue doing what we're doing. I'm just happy to see that Bloomfield once again has been acknowledged for a very progressive town, a town that cares. That's not a testament to just the work that we're doing here in the council. It's a testament to our residents, our citizens in the town of Bloomfield. They look out for each other. They have each other back. And I think that's important. I think we're the envy of Connecticut. I think the governor last Friday mentioned it to the mayor of West Hartford. He says, hey, you guys in West Hartford have to step your game up. Bloomfield is on a roll. And I truly do believe in being all-American town in the 70s and now in 2020. That's a testament to see that, you know, we were acknowledged at all-American town, but it takes work to continue that. And I'm proud to say that Bloomfield is doing that. And as a council, as a community, we got to pull together, work with each other, and do the right thing. We're not here to disparage our town. We're here to uplift it. And that's what I want to encourage our colleagues to do. Uplift the town of Bloomfield. That's our job. Thank you very much. Everyone that came out tonight, have a wonderful evening.
Councilor Wong.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick comments here. Justice for Tiana, justice for Breonna Taylor, end SARS in Nigeria. Your voice is needed. Let's change the way we eat. Let's change the way we live, and let's change the way we treat each other. Tupac. Thank you. Good night.
Deputy Mayor Mann.
Okay, I didn't expect to be so quick. I also want to extend a welcome to Phil. Welcome back. Look forward to working with you again. Happy about Philly Pond, Councilman DiLorenzo. I think it's great. Everybody's excited about that. I think there are a lot of things going, coming along, advancing in the policy point of view. We mentioned the TIF. We mentioned even the complete streets. These are things that are going to benefit our town, or at least we believe that will benefit our town, and we need to give them more scrutiny, and they'll be coming for the council soon. I'm a little bit disappointed at the personal discussions going on. I understand them. I think we all want to hold people accountable. I think certainly Councilman Goff has never held his tongue about anything, whether it's been in a meeting or elsewhere. And we all have a right to our opinion. I'm hopeful we can move forward and work together as we know we can for the benefit of the citizens of Bloomfield. And I think that's my comments. Oh, and make sure you go out and register to vote if you haven't, or do the census if you haven't. All those good things that were talked about at this meeting tonight. I'd like to see our citizens jump in and become participants and not sit on the sidelines this time. Thank you.
So thank you. The West Hartford Bloomfield Health District will be holding a flu clinic on Thursday, October 22nd, 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And this will take place at our Human Services building. Please, please, please get your flu shot. If you're sick, that's going to be the first question they ask you to try to rule it out if it's that or COVID. We're also very correct about people taking responsibility, but Deputy Mayor, I do have a difference with you. I try to hold my tongue all the time. I try to measure my words because words have significance, words have meaning, and words influence people, good or bad. But we are all under amendment rights and we all have the right of free speech. What I don't appreciate is when we use that speech to manipulate people because we're only giving them our side or our opinion. When I've always said what's important is the whole story. Tell the story, but tell the whole story. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to also just make an announcement for anyone who believes this council of 9 individuals who work tirelessly on behalf of the town. We are non-paid, we're non-paid employees of the residents of Bloomfield. So for those who think that the mayor's getting a big fat paycheck, it's a big fat zero. But I do service the town because I am a servant, and I believe that we should leave this place better than how we found it. I would ask our residents to please be engaged. Even when you see things in the newspaper, question, ask questions, dig deeper. Don't just take what someone is feeding you as gospel. One counselor's opinion does not make it fact. And the only thing that can chase a lie is fact. I'm going to leave it right there. My quote for the evening is, an individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to thank everybody for a very robust discussion. At this time, we will be going into executive session with the town manager, the assistant to the town manager, and the town attorney. Hopefully, we'll be coming back out into regular session to make a motion. Can I have a motion to go into executive session, please? I see Councilor Curtin, I see Councilor Wong. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Good night, everyone. Oh, no, wait a minute. We're going to come back out after executive session. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, you're unmuted.
Like Scott. So Rickford is saying that he can't get back in. Scott, can you send him an email?
I'm doing it. Oh, boy. It's not letting me send a invite to him again because the meeting already happened. So he can't get in with his own invite.
I guess not. So here's the thing. Did anybody else write that down?
You have reached the voicemail box of.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to Council Business 20/21-25. Discussion and possible action involving settlement of pending litigation. Councilor Goff, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's see, I would like to make a motion for the town attorney to enter into to settlements of the tax appeals for the property at 89 Maple Avenue, of $570,000 for the 2017 and 18 grand list years, and $580,000 for the 2019 grand list years.
Is there a second? Councilor DiLorenzo, second that. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Is there another Deputy Mayor, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Okay. Yes. I move to authorize the town attorney to enter into a stipulated settlement on a property located at 0 Griffin Road North with an assessed value of $2,071,793 to appear on the 2019 grand list.
Councilor Merritt, is that a second? Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Is there one final motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Councilor Merritt and Councilor Wong. All in favor?
Yep.
All right. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Amazing how things go faster at this time of night.